Unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably been hearing a lot about the stock market lately. Millions of people are beginning to invest for the first time ever. And we're realizing that the financial system should be built to work for us. That's why Robinhood is creating real human education resources, truly digestible financial news, and a platform that lets you invest in your own way, on your own terms. The next generation of investors is already here, and it includes you. Robinhood. Investing is risky. Robinhood Financial, LLC.
Whether you're having a not moving off the couch while you watch the game kind of day, or a no time between conference calls kind of day, it can still be a delicious Dunkin' kind of day. And with Dunkin' now available on DoorDash, it's easier than ever to get your faves brought right to your door. So if you're looking for coffees, donuts, and breakfast sandwiches in the morning, craving some afternoon snack and bacon, or in need of Dunkin' refreshers for a PM pick-me-up, we've got you covered. Order now and get your faves brought to your door through Grubhub, Uber Eats, and DoorDash. Price and participation may vary. Exclusions apply. America runs on Dunkin'.
Alright, this episode of the podcast is sponsored by Grammarly Premium. Get a 1 month free trial of Grammarly Premium. Also, thank you to vidIQ. If you need help getting those SEO for YouTube and getting those subscribers and views, click on the link to vidIQ to boost those subscribers and watch time on YouTube. Also, thank you to Amazon Music Unlimited. You can get a free trial of Amazon Music Unlimited. All you need to do is click on the link in the description down below. Welcome to the Stephen Shiels radio show. Today I've got a film composer from the UK named Sarah Warne. How are you, Sarah? Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you as well. I'm very well, thanks.
It's good to have you on the show today. Sarah, I've noticed you've got some great film work that you've published on Spotify, and you've worked for the BBC as well. You've also partnered with the QTube with their recent film scoring competition. I've also submitted my entry. How did you come across the QTube?
So it was brought to my attention by one of the other fellow judges on the panel, Tristan Noon. And then the organizer, Brian, got in touch with me. Sounds like a fantastic opportunity. So I was just keen to be involved and help the flow of creativity with, new voices and young composers. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. You've also worked for Channel 45 drama series Humans. How did you end up getting involved in the film industry? Is this the UK or is this in Hollywood?
It's all UK based for me.
Yep.
So I initially came into the industry. I went to the National Film and Television School here in the UK, which is a really brilliant school. And some of the filmmakers that I met and worked with there are the filmmakers that I work with now. So in fact, you mentioned Humans. The director who directed the first block of season 2 and was working on season 1 as well, he was in my year at film school. So we were sort of long time collaborators and friends. So yeah. And
what film school did you study at? Did you do a bachelor's degree or diploma?
It's called the National Film and Television School. It's based in Beaconsfield, which is just outside London. It's a master's degree.
Wow, master's. I've got a bachelor's in classical performance, and then I decided to go into composition as well.
What do you play?
So I played the clarinet. I majored in clarinet through my undergrad degree. I played in a few orchestras, the Hansel and Gretel opera as well.
Amazing.
And had to transpose the horn parts because they had the clarinet section fixed. So that was probably my biggest experience in my undergrad degree as well. Did you play harp or the piano at one stage?
Yes, and I still do. In fact, I'm working on a new drama series at the moment for BBC One, which has a very strong bowed harp part. So I've been bowing the harp and then resampling it to create interesting textures. So yeah, no, I still play the harp and the piano a lot. Yeah.
Sarah, how long have you been working as a composer in film?
Goodness, about 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
it's gone quickly.
What's been the best times of your career and the not so great times as a film composer?
That's a very good question. I think one of the most exciting times of my career was probably my first gig for the BBC. That felt like a real sort of breakthrough moment. That was on a feature documentary, and I didn't know the producer or director before, and that was something that I got the opportunity to work on via a blind pitch. So they just listened to my music. They didn't know me, and all the other composers. It was all sort of hidden. So that, I think, was the first moment where I felt people were just listening to my output rather than, considering you as a whole person and all these other factors that come into play. So that was a really exciting moment. There are a lot of highs and lows. I'm sure every composer would have the same stories of losing pitches that they really wanted. That certainly happened to me lots of times. So it's an up and down industry, but extremely fun, and I think that's why everyone sort of keeps going, because the highs outweigh the lows, I suppose.
No, that's it happens too. I remember studying my degree where you'd get film composers. They composed for all this music, then it gets cut by the director and replaced with temp music as well. Does that affect you, or do you feel, well, it's given me a paycheck and what can I do?
So I've not had the experience of having my music cut and replaced with temp before, but I've certainly had the experience where I'm battling to provide an alternative to the temp that has been really well loved by a team. I think that's quite a common experience. It can be a difficult experience, particularly if you yourself as the composer acknowledge that the temp is working really well, to know what it is that you're doing differently and what you're bringing is going to bring the project alive in a different way. That's definitely a really difficult experience, and I can remember one occasion where I wrote 22 versions before what I wrote was accepted, which can be a bit of a harrowing experience. So the battle with the temp is definitely real for everyone.
No, it's such a shame, because I think if a movie does play too much temp music, it just spoils it a bit. I know there was a movie with Transformers, and they just decided to put Linkin Park into it. It's a bit dull, And if you're watching Game of Thrones or Anarchy, it's all original stuff.
I think temp music at its best can be a really creative way of unlocking conversations about what a team is looking for. And at its very worst, it can shut down creativity and stop you from searching broadly and widely of what is the right thing. So I think it's got pros and cons for sure.
So during the 2020 coronavirus pandemic, how did you cope with the whole lockdown, Sarah? And is the UK in a full lockdown at the moment?
UK is in a full lockdown. This is our third lockdown. I think, it's difficult. People are struggling in their own ways, in their different ways. My husband's a doctor, so I suppose I'm seeing the pandemic from that side when he comes home, and the hospitals are very busy, so it is a worrying time. In terms of how we coped, that's a very interesting question. I became a mum in the summer, so we had a baby in the pandemic. So that's been an interesting experience, because it wasn't, I think, what most people experience when they have their family around them and their friends around them. Your new baby usually brings all those nice experiences with it, but it's been a bit strange because we haven't been able to see family and friends that much between lockdowns. We've been able to see our families, but it's a tough time. I'm grateful to be in work, so that's made things all right. But there are a lot of people who've lost their jobs and struggling financially, and it's really affected everyone globally. How's the situation in Australia?
Well, Sydney, it's relaxed, but we have to wear like a face mask in public. Melbourne got
Yep,
into a second full lockdown, and they're slowly getting out. But on like Western
that's good.
Australia and the Northern Territory, I think Tasmania or South Australia, like in Perth, everything's so relaxed over there. Like all nightclubs are open. They're on the far
Gosh,
end,
yeah,
and
worlds away.
yeah. In the Northern Territory, I don't know, because it's so hot out there in the outback, you don't hear about it. No, but we've been
Yep,
lucky in Sydney. But still,
that's
I
good.
wouldn't even travel interstate during this time.
Yeah, I mean, we've just had it really badly here in the UK, and I think there are multiple factors, but I think, compared to Australia, we're a very densely populated country, and so I think the virus has just traveled incredibly quickly. So it's we all just hope that the vaccination program will work and everyone's lives can get back to relative normal as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I suppose 2020 wasn't an easy time for anyone. I know the Q-Tube started. I started Shiels Productions as an entrepreneur.
Yep,
Yeah, I don't know why. I just felt it was the right time to start a company as well,
amazing.
and then go and do something with Brian Waters as well, which was a fantastic opportunity to build a portfolio as well. How did you?
Yeah,
Have you collaborated with Brian in the past, or was this the first time of this competition?
I haven't. No, this is the first time I've met Brian, but I absolutely love what he's doing. I think it's a very rare and exciting opportunity to have the possibility of your music to be performed by a large live ensemble. It's something that will be incredibly exciting for the winner of the competition. So I think the fact that he's felicitating that opportunity is just really great, particularly in a pandemic, because live music, the recording process, it's all been recordings are still taking place, but it's all been very sort of tricky, and certainly I think anything that's helping performers and musicians to carry on during these times is also great from that side as well.
Mm. Well, I wanted to ask, what music notation software do you use? I'm using Dorico 3.5, and I use Logic. What have you used throughout your career?
So I also use Logic as my DAW, and then to notate scores, I'm a Sibelius user. Sibelius was my first ever experience of digital music when I was about 11, but I think it was Sibelius 2 back then. Things have come a long way. So yeah, a combination of Logic and Sibelius.
Yeah, I started off with Sibelius in my undergrad degree, but I had a hard
Yep.
time flicking through the manual, and so when Dorico
Right.
came out, it was just so simple and straightforward. I can just tie it, and I don't have to.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I've not actually checked out Dorico, but I have heard good things. I think Sibelius is just sort of old habit for me now. But I know what you mean. There's a lot of shortcuts to learn, and yeah.
I wanted to ask, what keeps you going during the tough times, like a pandemic?
I think for me, do you mean from a composing point of view? I
From a
assume.
composing point of view, entrepreneurship point of view for yourself.
Yeah. So for me, I think it's all about looking for projects that excite me and that feel sort of personal on some level. I think being creative is tough, even at the best of times, because you're searching for innovation and newness, and something like a pandemic can make you feel quite flat. So I think in order to keep your sort of love of creativity alive. It's all about sort of collaborating with ideas and people that excite you. I think for me that's been key.
Hang on, I'll just put my light on. It's getting dark in here.
Oh yeah.
That's better.
There we go.
Yeah, it's been quite hot in Sydney, so keep all the
Has
windows
it?
closed. Yeah.
I suppose it's your summer there.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely freezing in the UK, so
I like the winter better.
yeah.
I really
Oh yeah. Well, I came in the studio this morning. I put the heating on, so yeah.
No, it's not easy living through a pandemic with the media just bombarding everything and just all this misinformation out there too.
Yeah. I think misinformation is a big problem. It's one of the dark sides of technical progression, for sure. I think that's why it's always smart to read widely and listen widely, so you can try and sift what's real, what's not real.
Mm-hmm. Sarah, what's your favorite music and style to compose in?
So I'd say my sort of natural style is so I was initially classically trained. Piano was my first instrument, harp my second. So the sort of the classical study does come through, but then I studied electronic music after that. So I have different influences. I usually have quite a strong live element, and then I like to kind of mess around with sound quite a lot. My music is all about, I think, interesting textures and things that sort of support the story and bring you into the right sort of emotional platform.
Yeah, part of my work, I do orchestral music and electronic, and I wrote a track called Judas last year in the pandemic. Got played on a community radio station somewhere.
Amazing.
I don't know where it was, but I do music videos for that, and yeah, I enjoy electronic work as well. So, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I lost you for a second there.
Oops.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah, and you've got works on. I checked out your Spotify. You've done something with what's Sans Toy or something, and Elemental Power. Explain a bit more about that.
Sans toi means without you
wrong.
in French.
Yeah,
that's okay. So I quite a few years ago, I did some work with EMI, some library work, and they had they were commissioning a French music album. So I collaborated with a singer, and we created this track called Sans Toi in an afternoon, and I sent it towards the pitch for the album, not really expecting it to be selected, but they ran with it, and that song has been synced to movie trailers, to games. It's just really kind of picked up an interesting and very unexpected following. So yeah, it was an unexpected, pleasant surprise, sort of alongside the film work that I do. So yeah, sans toi.
What's your opinion on streaming services in music versus royalty free? And do you appreciate Spotify and Apple Music?
Streaming services, what a good question, because they are completely transforming and changing the industry in every way. So major pros, music is truly global now, and it's so easy to access music across loads of genres from loads of countries. That is just mind-blowing and really fantastic. I remember when I was a teenager, everybody used to listen to the same, 6, 7, 8 bands. Music is just not like that anymore, which I think is amazing. One of the things that I think is very difficult for artists, I think the pandemic has only accentuated that, because of course gigging, touring, it's all just not been possible, is that streaming royalties are not catching up enough with the way the industry has become. So artists, composers, writers, they're not earning the comparative amounts that they were when we were on a sort of a less digital sort of platform, you know, when they relied more on CD sales and that kind of thing. Streaming royalties just have not caught up financially. And so I would say that while the industry is kind of struggling and people are continuing and keeping going, I think we're going to reach a point in a few years where there's either going to be a big sort of fallout from the industry. Not as many people will be able to afford to keep working because it's financially not viable, or the business model will shift again, and hopefully it will be rewarding artists where, you know, where it's due. Because for me, I observe there's a huge disparity when my music is on terrestrial channels, so it's broadcast. The royalties are much, much higher than if my music was on a streaming service such as Amazon Prime or Netflix. And I'm sort of questioning, as our industry becomes more and more online, why is there such a strong disparity there? And the way that the revenues are being placed and the way they're being divided really needs some scrutiny, because it's clear to me that most services are going to go online, and therefore it needs to be examined how everybody is being remunerated fairly.
Yeah, my first paycheck this year was $3 from royalties.
I mean, that is literally insane, because if you think about, you know, obviously albums have always been historically divided between, you know, labels, publisher, artist, writer. So it's not as if there haven't been splits before. But, you know, $3 is a paycheck for, I don't know how many streams that corresponds to, but it's just madness, because you are making a living as a musician, and people are enjoying your product. $3 does not translate as, you know, the system is a little bit broken, but I have faith that as we sort of continue down this path, that hopefully we will get on top of that.
Well, I've only been on streaming for 1 year, so I didn't have a lot of streams, but that's an achievement. I've also started
it's brilliant
looking at the royalty-free path, where you just sell the track for a one-off, and that's it.
Yeah. So I mean, everyone has their feelings about these different models. The trouble with the buyout is you are selling your rights. You are selling your you know what your music is worth for an upfront fee that you hope is healthier than what it would continue to be if you held on to those rights. But I do think in some situations that's a little bit dangerous, and I really hope that, particularly with new and younger musicians, that they aren't being convinced to let go of their rights naively, because I do think that some corporations are taking advantage of that, because of course when someone waves a bigger check in front of you, you think, oh yes please, but actually, you know, your music is worth a lifetime of that creation. And so I do think artists should be careful of doing that.
How do you deal with pressure as a film composer, Sarah?
So I think one of the key essential skills is handling pressure, deadline, sort of being very organized. I handle it mostly through timetabling deliverables. So if I'm on a 4-part or a 5-part series, and I know my end delivery schedule when the mixes are happening, I usually timetable backwards where I need to be in terms of delivering first drafts, having feedback, and it usually comes down to a certain number of minutes a day of music that I need to be writing in order to stay on track. So I just sort of break it down into simple numbers, and I don't leave the studio until I've clocked up those minutes. And I think I feel like lots of composers do work that way. It's a really kind of handy way of making sure you stay within the schedule, even if feedback and different conversations are going on, as long as you're moving forward, then I think that's the key to meeting your deadlines.
Mm-hmm. If you didn't become a film composer, what would you be doing?
Oh my goodness. So before becoming a composer, my only other sort of work experience was I used to work with huskies in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure I would be doing that professionally, but that was certainly a job I really, really loved. If I wasn't in music, it's a good question. I would like to feel that I'd still be working in something creatively. No one has ever asked me that question, so it's difficult to imagine myself doing anything else at this point, because I suppose it's been 10 years, but who knows, I might have a career change post pandemic. I think the one thing that the pandemic has highlighted for me is the importance of work-life balance. I know it's something that composers struggle with because of all the things you just mentioned, like deadlines and pressure. And it's a very fast industry. So I think the one takeaway that hopefully I will have, and I think lots of people will hopefully have, is that whilst it's good to be ambitious and work hard, it's also really important to enjoy life along the way.
What famous musicians do you admire, and have you seen any famous musicians on stage?
Yes, certainly. Gigging feels like a long time away. In terms of people I haven't seen on stage, there are obviously a lot of classical musicians that I have a huge admiration for. Debussy, Ravel, Rachmaninoff, a lot of people from the Impressionist sort of Romantic period. In terms of more sort of modern electronic influences, I love people like Fortet, Bonobo, Caribou. That's sort of the kind of area that I like to listen to a lot. In terms of people I've seen live on stage, gosh, it was so many years ago now, but when I saw Bon Iver on stage, that was a phenomenal experience. His music is very cinematic to me. So that was great. I actually cannot wait for festivals and gigs to come back. It's one of the things I've missed the most. Mm-hmm. How about yourself? Have you seen it? Are you missing seeing anyone?
Yeah, well, last year the Support Act, a non-for-profit organisation, put on a free concert at the Kudos Bank Arena. I think I saw the ex-lead singer from Powderfinger, and I think I saw Kevin Bacon as well.
Okay, amazing. Yeah.
No, that was cool. I'd never heard of Kevin Bacon.
Amazing. Oh,
no,
what an opportunity.
Cool. So it was only one concert that happened. That was I think in December. That's it. And still waiting to go ahead now,
Yeah.
But
I think you'll get there before we do, that's for sure.
Who was your first music teacher that you studied with?
That would be my first piano teacher at primary school.
Mm-hmm.
She was so I went to primary school in Scotland. It's where I was born. She was called Mrs. Cordner. Mm-hmm. She was very strict. I was not a very good sight reader initially, because I did everything. I liked playing things by ear. And I sometimes think if you develop your ear first, your reading skills take a little while to follow. She was very, very strict on me with my sight reading. But I'm very grateful for that, because it meant I went on to develop my reading skills much, much better as I was a sort of teenager and sort of really getting into music. But yeah, no, I remember that like it was yesterday. But my goodness, several decades ago now.
What advice do you have for beginner composers out there?
My advice would be work on your sound. So don't try too hard to sound like someone else. I think it's really great to be inspired by other artists and to sort of let those inspirations kind of filter through you. But I think work on your voice and what you bring and how you approach music. So that would be one. And the second piece of advice would be to pursue projects and pursue people that you really like. So try to work with filmmakers where you're really in love with their work, because I think when you collaborate with people that genuinely inspire you rather than just bring in a paycheck, I think that usually creates really genuine and really exciting work. So those would be my two pieces of advice, I think.
How do you get your inspiration to write for a film when the director says, oh, you got to write for this sort of scene? I noticed in my experience, if I've had to write for a kid's scene, I have to write something happy because I have my own style, which is dramatic. So now it's a challenge. How do you feel about that?
So I think exactly as you're saying, it's the scene that dictates sort of where you should start. So for me, I sometimes come on board project quite early. So that would be reading the script and kind of thematically working out what the music should be doing to the show. So are the major sort of strands of narrative, is it jealousy? Is it betrayal? Is it tension? Is it corruption? So sort of in my head, work out what it is that the music is telling, and then create some themes from that. So that would be work away from picture as an initial stage. But then once the production comes into edit, I'm always working to a scene. So that's sometimes tonal language of the scene. Is the cinematography dark? Is it abstract? Is it strange? Is it very real? So that would kind of affect the forces that I would choose and the kind of sound palettes. And then it's always about analyzing why you're in the scene. Why does the scene need music? Because sometimes it doesn't need music. But if you feel like it does, you've always got to figure out what it is that you're trying to say. So it's not really about harmony. It's not really about melody. It's all about the emotion, and then figuring out how you construct that emotion through the sound. That's always been my approach.
No, that's really good. What's been the hardest genre to write for you?
So that's a really interesting question, because I feel that my work has kind of taken me in sort of not a narrow genre, but I do tend to work on dramas that are quite real, quite gritty, quite dark. And then I have documentary work that is also kind of quite real, quite gritty, and quite dark. I work on sort of real stories that in some senses are quite dramatic, or that have a lot of raw emotions in them. So my work has been in quite a similar sort of emotional sphere. I would really, really love to have more experiences of, say, comedy or something with a little bit sort of more color. So because I feel like I have been sort of honing these ideas in a similar sort of world for a while. And I suppose the challenge of that, if you keep working on material that is within a world or within a genre, the challenge there is to make it different and fresh every time. Because if you're sort of practicing your skills on a similar sort of fabric every time, you do need to work hard to search for doing it differently, and with a sort of different kind of skill or idea every time. So I think that's probably been my greatest challenge. Every time I hit a new project, I'm like, what is it that's going to make this one different, this one creatively interesting? I want to do something that I've not done before. Those kind of feelings, I think, are the big challenge.
What are you working on for 2021, and what do you hope to achieve for this year?
So I have a drama series called The Drowning coming out in the UK, but it will be international at some stage in February. That's sort of dark thriller. And then I'm currently composing on a series for BBC One with Sean Bean and Stephen Graham just now. And then I have another project for the summer, which is another thriller. So my aim for this year is honestly to bring creative freshness to those projects, but like I was saying earlier, to focus on getting true kind of work-life balance in my life. I think that's my 2021 aim. How about yourself? What's your aim for 2021?
Yeah, publishing another album out, growing the YouTube channel, podcasting with more people as well, and improving the live streaming too. Starting to teach music through my company as well, and
fantastic.
Going to do a business course this year, and building the social media.
Do you with the teaching, do you have a group of students that you teach regularly?
Not yet, so I'm still trying to start out and going to do them on Skype or Zoom.
Yeah, great. Well, I mean, I think I'm sure you're the same. I feel like everyone lives their lives on Zoom these days, but it is amazing that, you know, we have these apps and these possibilities to be able to carry on, you know, conversations. Because I was thinking a lot actually yesterday about the last pandemic that happened 100 years ago, and thinking that they obviously didn't have any of the resources that we have to stay connected to people. So in some respects, you know, although it's awful and the times they're going through is awful, it is nice that we have the tools to stay in communication with people that we can't see.
Yeah, no, well, that's it. Everything's electronic now. You know, a lot of production companies have closed down, especially in Hollywood as well.
Yeah, I mean, the filming is incredibly difficult now. It's a huge logistical feat. I'm amazed that we have so many productions still in shoot here, which is brilliant for keeping our industry going. But I think it's hugely difficult to make sure it's done safely. So yeah.
No, that's it. You know, you can only move on through 2020. Yeah, and do you plan to keep writing for films, or are you going to write your own albums in the future? What are you looking at doing?
So most of my work is for television series. I suppose I didn't make an active choice as to whether I was going into TV or film. I feel really happy and excited that it ended up being more television, because I think online streaming services, people are digesting incredible content at home more and more. And so I feel that I've ended up in the place where I probably would have wanted to be. I do hope that in the future that I perhaps move more into film, but I think film has its challenges, and I think the pandemic has not helped at all. I hope that cinema survives and has a good life throughout our lives, but I certainly think television is incredibly healthy, very exciting, huge budgets, amazing quality, which is just worlds away from where it was, you know, 25, 30 years ago. So I think TV is a very exciting place to be. So I hope I stay there for a little while.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to have that vision, I think, and stay where you want to be. I want to just talk about like Netflix and Amazon Prime and Stan. For some reason, I just don't appreciate streaming. It's weird.
That's when you say you don't appreciate it, do you mean you don't appreciate watching content that way, or?
Yeah, it's just weird because there's shows on Netflix I want to watch and they're not there, and they got a weird algorithm
Yeah.
now.
Oh, as in what's advertised towards you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Getting past algorithms does seem to be the challenge of the moment, because it's on all the social media platforms as well, and I think some of them are a bit strange. I think I mean, I don't know about you, but I belong to a lot of streaming services, and that in itself is quite a lot of admin to have these different subscriptions sort of floating around. But I think we're at a transitional stage where, you know, there's a lot of competition. Netflix, Apple TV, Amazon Prime. I don't see the competition staying that wide for that long. I think it will condense and we will have a couple of major players. So I think we're at a very unusual stage where there are a lot of companies fighting to have their content at the front. You right?
Yeah, that's it. I was just going to show you that I'm still old school.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, nice.
DVD all the way.
Yeah, well, and I think we're losing that sense of owning content. I mean, I'm the same. I have like a CD rack and a DVD rack, and it's like a library. It's a physical thing, and it seems that is becoming a thing of the past, and the younger generation don't seem as fussed about having access to things just purely digitally. I mean, I'm the same thing. I don't like reading books on Kindles. I like reading an actual physical book that I can hold. So it's kind of, yeah, it's just very changing times. But I think I can't place any bets on who the winners are going to be, but I don't think we will have as many streaming services as we currently have for a long time. I think the industry is going to keep shifting, and it's just about going with that and following what it's becoming, which is guided by what people are interested in and how people want to watch things. And it does seem clear that while you're in a very healthy minority of old schoolness, it does seem that the demand for online services is just absolutely massive. I mean, the figures are massive. So
I don't mind it, Sarah, but it just gets to a point because I tried Apple TV. I thought it was rubbish, and
as in the content.
Yeah, there was just nothing there to watch, and it was just weird. And iTunes as well, it's just weird. They need to improve that. It's just complicated.
Yeah, I mean, Apple is a really interesting model because, of course, the slightly scary thing about the Apple model is they make so much revenue from devices that could potentially forever fund the generation of content. That's an incredibly safe model because a lot of services rely on spending money to make amazing content and then earning money from their amazing content, whereas Apple have got this system where they make all their money from their products. So it's sort of like a plus for them that they can make this sort of amazingly high budget content. So I think Apple's a really interesting one because other services don't sort of have that side to them.
No, you were mentioning about the Kindle. I listen to Audible because I listen to audio.
Oh yeah, Audible's great. Yeah.
Because I can't read electronic books, Sarah. I just zone out. And it's like online learning. I just can't concentrate with video lectures. They put me to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm old-fashioned. I've got to be in the classroom, pen and paper.
I think that's nothing but a good thing.
You know. No, yeah. And so what else, music-wise, are you doing at the moment?
So I'm just working on this series, and I've got my next series lined up. And that's keeping me pretty full time, to be honest. So my next series is delivering in April. We've just it's all shot now. just wrapping up the final edit of episode 1, just 3 episodes. So that will all be delivered, done and dusted in April. So when I'm not in the studio, I'm mostly doing non-musical activities, just hanging out with my little new family, and that's it really.
Mm-hmm. Sarah, it was a great interview with you today. Where can people find you on social media or your website?
So I have my website is www.sarahwarne.com, and that's kind of got everything on it, and it's got links to, I've got a Twitter, an Instagram and a Facebook, so always happy to connect via those platforms as well. Always happy to be in touch, and it's just great I have this feeling that the composing community is always growing and new voices and ideas are coming through, and that's very exciting. So if anyone wants to connect, I'm more than happy to do that.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you for listening to today's episode of the podcast. Thank you to the sponsors Grammarly Premium, vidIQ and Amazon Music Unlimited. Also, subscribe to the podcast, turn on the notifications wherever you get your notifications, leave a review. I just want to say thank you for listening to today's show with Sarah Warne. Her work is fantastic. I've checked it out on Spotify, and in my opinion, it's very talented stuff. It's great to listen to. Also, you can check out my latest single, Apocalypse, on Spotify. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, you can send a donation to my GoFundMe page. All the links in the description. And I'm happy to announce that my first album, Death and Life, is now on Bandcamp. Cheers. Bye for now.
Hike the trail? Check. Order takeout? Check. Schedule heart checkup? Done. We've all adapted to a new way of living. Keep your healthcare on schedule with Johns Hopkins Medicine, where your health and safety are our highest priorities. We're ready to care for you through virtual and in-person visits across Maryland and the greater Washington region. Your health, our experts, safely caring for you. Schedule your care now. Learn more at hopkinsmedicine.org/safe. Hike the trail? Check. Order takeout? Check. Schedule heart checkup? Done. We've all adapted to a new way of living. Keep your healthcare on schedule with Johns Hopkins Medicine, where your health and safety are our highest priorities. We're ready to care for you through virtual and in-person visits across Maryland and the greater Washington region. Your health, our experts, safely caring for you. Schedule your care now. Learn more at hopkinsmedicine.org/safe.